Thanks for being here. This is Truth Seekers with your host, Stephen Campion. Please rate, like and comment on our videos or podcasts. If you are listening to an audio podcast, please rate us 5 stars to help us rise in the search rankings. If you are watching on YouTube, please like, comment and subscribe to our channel. If you're listening to an audio podcast, we love and appreciate you listeners, but you are missing the live tapings. All our shows are recorded live with video feed. We'd love you to come be a part of our live broadcasts and tapings for the podcast. Head on over to YouTube, click the search tool, the little magnifying glass, put Truth Seekers, one word in the search bar, and hit enter. You'll see a strange and mysterious guy with sunglasses. That means you found the channel. Go there, smash the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to receive up-to-date info on our YouTube channel. We welcome you to be a part of our live taping and our chat group during the live broadcasts. Seek the truth. Speak the truth. This is Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers.
I got scrapings off Jim's balls. 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 I got scrapings off Jim's balls.
I probably would be more cautious about in terms of how we present it is the sphere story, for the simple fact that we just don't know yet whether it is or it isn't non-human technology.
We have new, conclusive proof, testable evidence of alien technology.
Frankly, whilst a lot of people want us to say, yeah, it's alien technology, we're not going to say that.
We have new, conclusive proof, testable evidence of alien technology. This renowned scientist confirms it all.
Whilst a lot of people want us to say, yeah, it's alien technology, we're not going to say that because that's a terrible danger.
We have new, conclusive proof, testable evidence of alien technology.
A lot of people want us to say, yeah, it's alien technology. We're not going to say that.
Alien technology. This renowned scientist confirms it all.
We're not going to say that.
New, conclusive proof, testable evidence of alien technology. This renowned scientist confirms it all.
We're not going to say that, for the simple fact that we just don't know yet whether it is or it isn't non-human technology.
They come to me with some of their results, and I basically said these results are shit. So I'm sorry to the people who are so friggin' impatient that they won't get off their butt and go learn this stuff and do it themselves. I'm not your daddy. I'm not here to do things for you. I'm sorry. Get out of your basement and go do something. I've seen some of those snap your fingers reports, and they're garbage. Publish the darn paper. Stop claiming that. This is shoddy work. This can't go anywhere. Who did this? It's crap.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. We have talked at some great length about how the UFO delusion works. And one of the ways in which it works is that these people are allowed to make absolutely fantastical, out-of-this-world claims never provide the evidence, and then never be called out for it. To my knowledge, Gary Nolan, who was involved in this, what I believe is a scam with a disgraced Australian journalist in the form of Ross Coulthart, who, by the way, has been caught selling at least 5 completely and totally 100% provably fake stories in recent years. One might ask themselves why a distinguished Stanford professor would involve himself in a scam to defraud the public out of basically attention, clicks and views. They used incredibly deceptive practices that we saw in the beginning of our broadcast here, claiming that they had conclusive proof of alien technology, all confirmed by this man. And then they cut to a shot, or all confirmed by this renowned scientist. And then they cut to a shot of Michio Kaku. There also is some questions about Mr. Gary Nolan essentially whoring out the labs, university equipment, and even perhaps personnel working on personal projects, which according to the Stanford Code of Ethics is against their code of ethics. I've asked questions about that and was instantly blocked by Mr. Nolan. So, but back to the world of delusion. If you want to live in a delusional fairy tale land where people can claim they have conclusive proof of alien technology, and then when it becomes abundantly clear that they have no proof of anything, let alone conclusive proof of alien technology. By the way, we reached out to Michio Kaku, who has not replied, despite numerous attempts to ask him, why did you allow yourself, Michio Kaku, to be used in a clickbait, garbage peddled story, claiming that you, the world-renowned scientist, were going to be confirming the existence of alien technology? No reply. But I don't blame Michio Kaku so much. He took a paycheck. Michio Kaku's in a great number of documentaries, and you too can hire Michio Kaku if you hit his number. Apparently, they paid him to be a part of this documentary, and essentially all he did is the same thing he always does, wax poetically about the possibilities of faster-than-light travel and how aliens may get here from vast, faraway star systems. But back to Gary Nolan, we also saw in the beginning of our broadcast here that Mr. Gary Nolan did not like it when people started asking him, where's the scientific results of the ball shavings? Mr. Show Me the Data never showed us the data. And it has been about 2 years since Gary Nolan stood in front of cameras along with disgraced journalist Ross Coulthart pretending that they had conclusive proof of alien technology when they had nothing. And, I, for one, think that people, when they get to interview these people, should start asking some hard questions. I saw some things in the live chat earlier. Someone was saying, well, what's your definition of a hard question? Well, when somebody's caught red-handed selling a completely and totally fake story, and they happen to be a Stanford professor, and you're interviewing that Stanford professor, I would think that it's probably an important question to ask. Why did you allow yourself to become involved with this disgraced journalist and allow him to use you and Stanford University labs and equipment to sell the completely and totally fake story that you had conclusive proof of alien technology? This would seem to be an important question, but that's not how UFO land works, because in the delusional fantasy land of UFO land, where everybody lives in a goddamn delusion, in order to get the interview, you need to play ball. And there's lots of people playing ball. Tonight, we're going to look at an interview by ArtisanTony, who has gotten to interview these UFO celebrity lying scumbags, multiple of them, and he never asks them any hard questions. It's just let them talk, right? And I don't know. I think that if you get the interview, you've got to ask the hard questions. Or in my opinion, you shouldn't take the interview at all. If you're just going to circle jerk the guy off, ArtisanTony, by the way, did everything but blow Mr. Nolan during this interview. That's right. I said it. ArtisanTony did everything but blow him right in the interview. So great job, ArtisanTony, who, by the way, blocked me simply for suggesting some questions to ask. Like, isn't it against the Stanford Code of Ethics to use university labs and equipment for personal profit? Or, hey, what happened to those millions of dollars that organization that you were part of or affiliated with, TTSA, collected from the public? Didn't you guys promise people a spaceship? What happened to those millions of dollars that you guys collected? Did you defraud the investors? These are some questions that I thought somebody should ask Gary Nolan. And by the way, Gary Nolan, you intellectual weakling and coward, if you're going to take interviews, why don't you take a real interview instead of an interview from a fan who's not going to ask you the hard questions? Are you such a coward? And are your previous history and actions selling these fake stories, do you get a pass or what? Because it appears that you will only do interviews with kind and gentle fans of yours that aren't going to ask about what essentially amounts to consumer fraud that you have been involved in. I think that's wrong. So we're going to get into this interview with ArtisanTony, but I have a few things to share before we do that. And you'll have to pardon me if there's any technical issues or problems this evening. I apologize. We are transitioning to our alternate streaming studio here, which also means there's a few problems, like we're not broadcasting on Instagram tonight due to just a technical problem. So, but before we get to this circle jerk interview, by the way, people have asked me, what do you mean circle jerk? That means that you just circle jerk the person you're interviewing off. You don't ask any hard questions. And let's be clear, there's a reason why these people get these interviews. And it's not because they're great interviewers. It's because there is an unwritten rule and an understanding between the UFO circle jerkers who run shows and podcasts about UFOs that in order to get the interview, you have to more or less agree that you're not going to ask about their history of selling fake stories or being involved in shady things like claiming Michio Kaku confirms you have alien technology and conclusive proof of it. And I just want to point that out. And Mr. ArtisanTony has said some very unkind things about me. And I've never said anything unkind about him up until now. I did say that he wastes these interviews. He doesn't do a real job. If you're going to take the interview, Tony, then you better ask the goddamn hard questions. Because if all you're going to do is blow the guy for an hour straight and talk about what a big fan of his work you are, you're not doing anything, and you are enabling these UFO grifting scumbags to continue to sell everybody completely and totally fake stories with no consequences. Now, you might also be aware that ArtisanTony also interviewed Lou Elizondo, I think multiple times. Did he ever ask Lou Elizondo about what has been described as the TTSA techno scam? Did he ask Lou Elizondo why he lied to the New York Times about running a $22 million funded official Pentagon UFO program? Of course not. Of course not, because then you don't get the interview. So just so everybody is aware, this is how it works. If you see a UFO celebrity scumbag being interviewed by somebody, they have agreed to participate in that person's lies. We've also talked about this. A lie requires your participation. The truth does not require any participation from you. The truth is the truth. But in order to get the interview, you have to agree to the UFO celebrity scumbag's delusions, essentially, and never bring up that they've been caught selling fake stories. I am fascinated by this bunch of assholes that gets these interviews that just thinks nobody's going to know that I know that they've been selling these fake stories and I'm keeping my mouth shut about it. Well, now, ArtisanTony, anybody else that does one of these UFO circle jerks, I'm going to cover it. And we're going to let your viewers and the world at large know that you're part of the goddamn problem. You are enabling these UFO celebrity scumbag grifters to continue to sell fake stories because they know there will never be consequences. They could just go to a circle jerker like ArtisanTony who will help them sell their latest fake shit and not talk about the previous fake shit. It's a big club, and I ain't in it, so I can tell you the truth. But before we get to this, there's some things on my Twitter. By the way, you can follow me at Stephen Cambion on Twitter. Yeah, and of course, Mike. You know, I like Mike, but he always gives them an out. That would be more of a question for Ross Coulthart and the producers of the documentary. No, it's not a question for. He participated in that. Yeah, everybody wants to give Gary Nolan an out. Oh, it was Ross Coulthart who lied to everybody. Whose university labs and equipment were used to help sell that fake story? And of course, here's Gary Nolan with a literal public relations person trying to spin this ball shaving story.
You know, so for instance, these metal spheres of Ross Coulthart, right?
I was going to ask you about that because there's so much online controversy, and I hate bringing up UFO Twitter not that I love UFO Twitter because I love that there's conversation in this space, but I hate just the gossip that's in that community.
Oh, it's not gossip. If people are accusing Gary Nolan of perpetrating a scam with disgraced journalist Ross Coulthart, that's called facts, Chrissy Newton. I know you're a public relations person, and she's another of these goddamn circle jerkers. She's another of these people whose job it is essentially to help the UFO celebrity scumbags sell their fake shit. Great job, Chrissy Newton, right? Great job, right? You're doing a great job helping enable. And again, this is another person that's part of the problem. What if everybody said, we're not playing this game anymore? If you sell fake stories, we're going to ask you, why were you involved in fake stories, right? If everybody that interviewed these scumbags did that, this problem of people selling these provably fake stories constantly would end tomorrow. But nobody has the balls or the courage to do their job the right way. They're so concerned with preserving the access. In order to get access to the celebrity scumbags and get the clicks and the views. By the way, ArtisanTony, when he does a show by himself, it gets like 150 views. And he's got 80,000 subscribers. So what does that tell you about what his show depends on? His show depends on getting those big interviews with the celebrity scumbags. But it is what it is.
But I have to bring it up because they're saying, why isn't Gary come out with hasn't analyzed yet? Why isn't that? What's going on with the sphere?
Here's the reason it's so first of all, Ross had no control over what the advertisers did for his show. I mean, so anybody who thinks
that's a lie. That's a complete and total lie, you asshole, Gary Nolan. You are a lying scumbag grifter, because anybody that knows anything about production knows that Gary Nolan had to stand in a sound booth and read the promo. Excuse me. Ross Coulthart had to stand in a sound booth in front of a microphone and read those lies, which were then cut into the promos. So this UFO celebrity scumbag is lying through his teeth right here, saying that Ross Coulthart had no control. Sure you do. If you know that the people you're working for are going to literally lie and use deceptive practices to clickbait sell a fake sensational story, then you quit. You quit your job and you issue a press release saying that you quit your job because you would not become a part of purposefully selling a completely and totally fake story. This is a complete and total lie, though, because nowhere did Ross Coulthart say those lines in the documentary, which means that Ross Coulthart had to step into a vocal booth. They handed him a script to read, and he read those lies, saying we have conclusive proof of alien technology. So Gary Nolan is lying through his teeth here to cover his tracks. Or maybe he's just ignorant of what a voiceover is. Ross Coulthart, Gary Nolan, stood in a vocal booth and repeated those lies, which were then cut into the audio of the promo. Meaning, yes, not only did he have control over it, he participated in the lies, you asshole.
You know, he was the one who wrote all the headlines. It's like, you know this, you write an article and the news, the people behind the scenes write the headline, and you don't have much say about what the headline
Sure
is.
you do. You could quit. You could say, I'm not going to take part in a lie. Or you could refuse to do the voiceover they hand you that was filled with lies and sensationalized claims which have no bearing on reality.
From your own article. Same thing for Ross. So yeah, he's giving me materials, and I have a bunch of other materials, but a one-off analysis done just on that material. So what are you going to get? It's got iron, it's got a few other things in it, and maybe some carbon, nickel. Okay, so what? It has to be run with controls. There's about 5 other things that could be done afterwards.
Yeah, like maybe you could get an industrial ball bearing of the same size and shape as that ball and run a control. You could have done that. Why would you stand in front of cameras with a bunch of people saying, we have conclusive proof of alien technology, and then make excuses for why you can't do the analysis? Bullshit.
So rather than with the 50 literally things that I've got, doing these little one-off experiments, each of which is expensive and each of which is time consuming. I have to ask one of my postdocs or grad students to do it in their off hours.
Yeah, and by the way, again, according to Stanford Code of Ethics, he's not supposed to be using university labs and equipment for personal profit. So how much money were you paid to be part of that documentary? How much did they pay you to do the analysis? Did you have permission from Stanford University to do that?
And then I have to work on the data because I can't ask them to process the data. And then what am I going to do? Post it on Twitter?
Yeah, you're the one that overpromised and under-delivered, claiming you had conclusive proof of alien technology with a disgraced Australian journalist, who, by the way, has also accused members of British Parliament of being pedos, right? With no evidence. You know his history, right? But this is what we get from Gary Nolan. Now we have excuses. It's been a couple of years now. Where's the ball shavings analysis? You stood there like an idiot with a disgraced journalist who claimed that Michio Kaku and you were confirming the existence of alien technology. Now, and by the way, the only reason Chrissy Newton asked that question is because I sent her a very strongly worded message that this is a problem. Somebody needs to ask him the question. It's the only time he has been asked the question. But I guess he supposed, I'm going to do this with a public relations person who can help me spin the fraud that I took part in with the disgraced journalist.
No. What I want to do is take a whole bunch of these materials, have an analytical pipeline and framework, run all of them at once so that they're all run at the same time.
What does all the other materials have to do with the single claim of the ball shavings? None. He's just muddying the waters here.
Under the same conditions, etc., with enough left over that I could hand to anybody else who wants to do it as well, and then publish a paper on it. So I'm sorry to the people who are so frigging impatient that they won't get off their butt and go learn the stuff and do it themselves.
Yeah, those people didn't claim they had conclusive proof of alien technology, you asshole. You did. You and a disgraced journalist did. Right? But nobody, nothing but excuses here. It's absolutely ridiculous, right? And so we'll get into the circle jerk interview with ArtisanTony now. And I realize, this is punching down, but I'm that kind of a guy. ArtisanTony had to block me simply because I suggested that he actually ask some real questions. And by the way, the previous video we shared was shared under the spirit of fair use because we're educating the public and using it in the spirit of fair use. We're critiquing the video and talking about it. This is certainly covered under fair use and allowable by law. Same for the video, which we will share right now.
Welcome, Dr. Gary Nolan, to the show.
Oh, hi.
Hello, Dr. Gary Nolan.
Great.
How are you?
Thank you very much for that introduction.
Well, I was explaining to you earlier off the air that I was a little nervous about the introduction, and I asked for help from my little AI bot, and I thought it did pretty good. It actually, that's my voice synthesized.
That's your voice synthesized?
Yeah, that's it. That's its best attempt at it. So
Wow, that was pretty good. I thought it was you reading something.
no, I actually, I typed the script in, and it I had already synthesized my voice beforehand for other videos, and so you can just select the voice.
Fascinating.
And I thought it turned out pretty good. It's better than I could have done as a design build contractor.
Yeah, that's good.
So, no, I do appreciate your time, though. I know you're a busy fella, and so I really appreciate your time. I know that I've been working on trying to get you on the show for about a year, and I really appreciate your coming. And
let's get this. This is a fan. This is not a real interviewer. Why do these UFO celebrity scumbags only agree to interviews with big fans of theirs? Could it be because they know that a real interviewer would leave them in a puddle of their own piss based on their history of false claims? If a real interviewer asked real questions?
Well, it's been, as we were back and forth over the months, I just been asked for so many, and you can't do them all. Unfortunately,
this is live, Mike.
And then real life does catch up with you, and so
I'm live.
I'm now
this
back.
Is a pre-recorded interview.
Try to keep to a one a week schedule. So for the people who look at this and say, "But Gary, I asked you to do it 3 months ago. Why?" Yeah. I just send me another note and we'll get you on the schedule.
Great. I'll send him a note. When can I expect an interview?
And I actually do have responsibilities at Stanford.
Well, honestly, that's one reason I wanted to highlight the work that you're doing, because you do have things that, like, trying to help cure cancer.
Yeah, of course they're going to take the interview.
And
sure.
And I was going to actually say, see, you can as a small podcaster, you can do it too. And then I realized, well, it depends on the schedule, I suppose. So, but I do appreciate you coming, and I did want to. There was two things I wanted to focus on.
And that's an issue. He calls himself a small podcaster. He has 80,000 subscribers. However, his views, based on 80,000 subscribers, are dismally horrible, which I don't understand unless he bought his subscribers, or a great number of them. Because if you have 80,000 subscribers and you're only getting a few thousand views per video, there's something not right with your subscribers there.
One was life on Earth, and then maybe possibly life off of Earth, and what your thoughts are on that. But
softball.
So I do have a list of questions, if it's okay here.
Go for it.
Well, one of them is kind of related to kind of a theme for this show, and I wanted to share that in the comments. And it was like a quote I've always liked from Theodore Roosevelt, and you probably have heard this. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing, and the worst thing you can do is nothing. So I ran into that quote a long time ago as a young.
Yeah, I'd like to ask ArtisanTony, how is it doing the right thing not asking Mr. Nolan about his provable history of making completely and totally false claims? How is that doing the right thing? It's right for you, I guess, from a profit perspective, because you get to make money doing the circle jerk. But how is this the right thing? I don't get it.
Carpenter. But
he copied the quote into his live chat as well.
We are in construction. It was more like, just do something, even if it's wrong. And I never knew where that quote came from. And I've always thought it was kind of a humorous. But then when I found out the root of it, it had a little more meaning to it. And
well, I mean, you learn from mistakes. I mean, in science.
Yeah, I love how he's going to talk about he learned from mistakes. However, he doesn't ever admit any mistakes, right? A typical egomaniac. We want to take a moment to recognize a kind and generous Daniel Patrick with a $4.99 super chat. I wasn't aware of this. Radio host Mike Redbar got obsessed with a conspiracy involving a mothership and obeyment list. Claims he has evidence exposing you as a disinfo agent. I don't know who Mike Redbar is, Daniel Patrick. Could you email me a link to him saying this shit? I love it. It's great. But we want to take a moment to thank all of you kind and generous benefactors. Starting off tonight, very well with Mr. Daniel Patrick. We're a viewer-supported show. Thank you, Daniel Patrick, for letting me know about that and for helping us, of course, to praise the cash.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
All right, we'll continue with this. Thank you for kindness.
If you have a hypothesis, your hypothesis is either right or wrong. If it's wrong, you learn something, and that's how you focus the research. And
yes, I'm a disinformation agent.
Even in evolution.
Thanks for being a member.
Evolution makes mistakes, but sometimes one mistake, when mixed with another mistake, is a solution.
That's funny you mentioned evolution, because one of the questions I was going to get into later, or subject, was this DNA, and
nerf for nothing. You're right, Tal.
I'm one of those people that's been very interested in sort of the origins of life for a very long time, and several years ago I had a DNA test done, and
I don't know, I think it's a real cat.
It was so obvious that, or it was kind of funny that, it came back that I have like 30% Viking blood. It was a little embarrassing, but it made sense after all.
He sleeps with a Gary Nolan.
We used to joke in our family about how the Vikings made their way, to Tennessee before the Spaniards and brought moonshine and bluegrass with them.
So you had Norwegian or Swedish, or
it was Scandinavian and Norwegian.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I'm joking about the Viking part. Obviously, they didn't. It said, but it was amazing to me, though, how at different periods of life, like there was at one point, and this was the question I really had. There's like a 1 or 2% of Peruvian, of all places, DNA, and I was trying to figure out. And then there was this, what's it, Jakarta Indian. So you had.
I love this. This is a snooze test so far. You get the big interview, ArtisanTony, then you want to talk about your personal genetic heritage for some reason. We're 8 minutes in. He hasn't asked any real questions yet. This is a total, circle jerk.
Have these, and I understand, man traveled all over, migrated all over the world, but the timeline was really strange.
I was kidding about the vote.
It was like the Peruvian was earlier.
Fascinating monologue.
Scandinavian. And I'm trying to figure out how is that, because this was a pretty scientific.
Why is he talking about this BS? No,
it was more of a science-based test than it was, a lot of these commercial sites you see.
Oh,
right.
So it seems very detailed, as far as the. It had the percentage of accuracy, but I was
somewhere in the background. It could have been somebody eventually who moved from.
I love this too. Now Gary Nolan's going to wax poetically about genetics, right? What the hell? Daniel Patrick, somebody, listen, you're going to have to email me a link to that. It's truthseekershow@gmail.com, or you can DM me on Twitter @StephenCambion. My DMs are open. Redbar is live right now, offering $5,000. This is creepy. $5,000 to any listeners who sends in a sample from your son, claims he's really Lila Hart in drag. I'm gonna have to look into that, but thank you.
Praise the cash, praise the cash, praise the cash.
Yeah, just when you think that the UFO land can't get any creepier, now people are offering people money for hair samples of your children because they don't like what you say. I mean, I don't understand. I don't even know who this person Mike Redbar is. Never heard of him. I'm checking. He's had Sheila Aliens before. She's a friend of the show. I don't know this person. I've never heard of him. Give me 1 second here while I look into this. Does he have a YouTube channel? This is bizarre. He's offering money for hair samples of my child. Yeah, I don't know. You're gonna have to send me a link. I'm gonna put my email address up on the screen. I always have trouble finding this. 1 second. It's truthseekershow@gmail.com. You have to send me a link because when it involves people making ridiculous claims and also doing something crazy like that, yeah, I need to know about that. So please do email me the link of whatever it is that you're talking about. That's bizarre.
Somewhere in Peru to somewhere in Tennessee, and had relations somewhere along the line. 1% is pretty small. So, I mean, that's probably...
Yeah, somebody email me that link.
Somehow at least
please.
10 or more generations back.
And a timestamp.
Depending on how the genetics and the statistics work. But
that's kind of how I feel, William Runner.
For your audience, the way that they do this and they can estimate it is what they do is turns out that most people don't move from where they are. And so scientists have collected genetic samples from all around the world and basically established what the gene patterns are in certain countries or cities.
Why is Gary Nolan talking about genetics? He's not a geneticist. He is an immunologist. Talmud, somebody email me at truthseekershow@gmail.com. When people are involving my family, especially my children, in their online conspiracy nonsense, I need to know about it. So, well, that's a new one to me, right? That's a new one to me.
Or what have you.
And if he's watching my stream right now, I would strongly caution you against involving my children in your conspiracy theory nonsense, whoever it is you are, Mr. Red Bar. So somebody send me the link. We'll try to get through this first.
So those become a signature for if any of that DNA shows up on the other side of the planet. You can basically say that somewhere in your past was that individual. I have like and most people have between 3 and 5% Neanderthal DNA. I think my family has about 5%. But we have DNA from the Middle East, surprisingly. Where does that come in? It's fascinating. But then you have mutations all along. I mean, I just found out I have a mutation that causes skin cancer, which explains all the skin cancers I've had. I just had another one removed.
Yeah, I just checked. I don't see a link, and nobody has sent me the link. So apparently all of you know whatever the link is. Somebody email it to me at this email address up on the screen.
You can see the scar. But nobody else in my family has it. So obviously
it's behind a paywall.
Well, the strangest part about it was the timeline, because that 1 or 2%, whatever it was earlier than what you would have thought that, how we migrated out of Africa and then there was a split, right? It seemed like the timeline, I actually have it if you want to see it, but it was like 15 or 20 generations ago, and most of the Scandinavian or whatever is, like 1600s or whatever. And I was trying to figure out how that 1 or 2% got in the timeline earlier than.
Well, it doesn't get in earlier. You can still, you can still breed with somebody from that area. They just have.
So we're 11 minutes into this interview, and so far they've talked about ArtisanTony's Viking heritage, and Gary Nolan's explaining genetics to Idiot Tony.
Have DNA that is as old
Okay, that the light bulb just went off in the head.
Yeah.
So I wonder why this company even provides the timeline, because it's a little confusing. It makes it
it's a public
seem as
discourse.
if
They're going to do that.
But it just means that DNA hasn't changed since then.
Because it makes more sense that a Spaniard had relations with a Peruvian, and then came to Tennessee or whatever, or went back to Scandinavia. You know how those Vikings were; they like to travel around and
talking about
raid villages and things. But
instead of asking real questions,
so I thought that was really interesting. I've always had an interest in the origins of life, and since my whole life, I've had a interest in UFOs or whatever as a child, science fiction, all of that. And then you get the exposure later in life to the internet. Everything starts to get kind of watered down or whatever, as far as the differences between, fact and fiction. And that was one reason I was excited about talking with you, is I knew you've done the work, and, there's a lot of philosophers and theorists on social media, and
what is ArtisanTony talking
there's very
about?
few people who are actually doing lab work, who are doing the work, and that's where that sort of quote came to my mind.
Got it. Yeah, I was just having breakfast.
Yeah, you have to subscribe.
Somebody who's donated to the Soul Foundation.
Yeah.
And we were.
Oh, if you want to have breakfast with Gary Nolan, you could just give a big donation to his foundation. Yes, let's table this for now, because I'm having trouble concentrating on the show. For those unaware, apparently somebody with a paywall is offering people money for hair samples of one of my children. And he's doing so behind a paywall. I don't know UFO Shane, but anybody that knows him should strongly caution him against involving my children in his online bullshit, whatever he's doing. I don't know him, don't want to know him, but it's pretty toxic involving somebody's children, right? And then what is he? He's claiming I'm a disinformation agent.
The difference between just talking about it and doing something. And, he asked me, well, why are you doing this? Not that he was disagreeing or anything, but I was like, well,
it's not a radio station, it's a podcast.
I'm the right person at the right time, not because I'm special, because I happen to have the talents and I happen to have the interest, and I happen to see a problem that needs to be solved. And, I always.
What talents? I love how he's doing materials analysis, but he's an immunologist. It's like going to a foot doctor for brain surgery. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. None. We want to take a moment to thank Guardian Jackpot, who just became a YouTube member. For those unaware, if you become a member during a live broadcast, we give you a shout out and a thank you. So shout out to Guardian Jackpot, who just became a YouTube channel member. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support, and of course, helping us to.
Raise the cash, raise the cash, raise the cash.
All right. Now I think I got to use other bumpers. People are starting to involve my children in their online conspiracy fantasies. Ridiculous. Nothing surprises me anymore. Guardian Patrick with a kind and generous $4.99. This is ridiculous. Now they're slandering me. Great. Thanks, Daniel Patrick. Well, I'm going to have to get a hold of that recording. All I can say is good luck to that person. He better have good lawyers, because I do.
Dislike wasted potential. I mean, it's something that always upsets me is seeing potential wasted, whether it's people or, something that you have sitting in front of you and it can help. Why not spend your time, to bring it to fruition? As a professor, I don't teach classes. I teach graduate students and postdoctoral fellows who come to me to work with me over the course of 4 to 5 years, how to think in scientific terms, which is a language. And the better you speak the language, the more able you are to, enact your desires, frankly, in science. And so, I have a particular mode of thinking and an approach that some people want to learn, and they come to me, and over 5 years, I raise their potential, and they go out and do things. And so similarly, in the area of UAP, I'm interested in teaching the field at large how to talk about it so that you don't get, verbally cornered by the pseudo skeptics, and also how to talk to your families about it without going over the line of making conclusions that sound crazy, but get people to stop and look at the data, because it's the data that should intrigue you. If you can't interest somebody with the data, then telling them conclusions is really just telling them ghost stories in many cases. And so, you got to.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And Gary Nolan tells people conclusions without the data all the time, which is bizarre. Remember, there's 100% chance that aliens are visiting Earth. Yeah, listen, I'm not going to waste any more time on this other situation. If somebody has clips, send me clips and we'll address those issues. But, I'm not interrupting the show any further because somebody's saying something which I can't access, can't even verify they're saying that. Let's focus on the show and Gary Nolan, who is right now showing his hypocrisy going. Don't just give people the stories, give them the data. Where's the data for all of your claims, Gary Nolan?
I get people to look at the data because that's where, that's how I got converted to be interested in this area, is not only because I had seen things when I was young, which, one can say might have been real or imagined or what have you, or a mistake. I don't think they were, but when you really get into the data, you realize there's something here that nobody in their right mind should ignore.
Where's the data then?
At least no scientist.
He never shows any data. He talks about data a lot, but he never shows it.
Have you seen things with your work? I guess I should ask this question first. Did someone come to you and say, "Hey, Gary, we need you. You have this reputation. We need real scientists who are doing things in the lab or whatever, or they're doing things.
Yeah, it could be trolling,
creating things. We need you to come on board and
that is an expensive
show
way to
be an
get my
example
attention.
for other scientists, because there seems to be a stigma surrounding it."
It wasn't exactly that way, but
praise the cash, bitches.
People did show up, as I've often talked about in my office, from the government and an aeronautics company, asking for my help on individuals who'd been hurt.
Yeah, this is interesting. Gary Nolan has at various times claimed that like the CIA came to him and asked him for help. Well, why don't you name those agents? Why don't you let me interview them and verify that the CIA indeed came to you for help, right? I just don't understand.
Or damaged. And
these
many
are
of those
unproven claims about him being involved in Havana syndrome.
Were the first cases of Havana syndrome. But when we determined
I agree, Richard Wagner,
those people,
Richard Warner,
we did have a significant, let's say, concentration.
And by the way, if somebody is trolling, I apparently Sheila Aliens knows that person, so we have a friend in common. I can find out if those things are being said or not. Yeah.
Of people who had seen UAPs and had been damaged by that.
I agree, Amy
so,
Collins. Good candidate.
Again, that was just the
info
data.
Agent.
And the people I was talking to on it had not come to conclusions. Just because somebody says something doesn't mean that it's true. But certainly there was no doubt in my mind.
Just because somebody says something doesn't mean it's true. Kind of like when Gary Nolan says there's 100% chance that aliens are visiting Earth.
About why they had come to me or been brought to me, it was because there was obvious medical damage. And they came to me for the blood analysis tool that my lab had been involved in developing. And so,
Yep.
I mean, they didn't come to me because they had any future desire to get me involved in some bigger way. But once I got into it and I was introduced around, that's how I came to meet a number of other scientists. And I realized that there actually was, you know, and it's often called the invisible college of scientists and people you could speak to with the language.
Yeah, with respect to this person, Daniel Patrick, I'm not sharing any more unverified rumors. I'm doing a live show right now. I don't even know if what you're saying is actually correct. So unless you send me clips of him saying this shit, I'm not sharing it on my show. But thank you for the super chat.
Language of science. And that's what kept me going. But I think what drives me today is more the notion that some people tell me that I shouldn't be asking the question.
Who's told me you can't ask the question?
So
I agree, Andy
and,
Collins.
you know, telling someone who's an expert in science and knows how to do it right and publishes
That's true, Jason
pretty
Parker.
much anywhere I need to, that the question is somehow disallowed is just frankly ridiculous. So you know, call names or anything like that, but
I will say this, however, there is a such thing as microwave and ultrasonic weapons, William Runner. And I agree. AJ Yanada says all these people have financial incentives to push these stories, labs, and equipment.
It's
Yes.
just that is what drives me to prove to them that the question is valid. Not that the conclusions are valid, but that the question is valid. So don't you dare tell me that I shouldn't be asking the question. And Avi Loeb is doing the same thing. I mean, he's been hammered.
Here he complains that Avi Loeb is getting hammered. Well, Avi Loeb's made a multitude of completely and totally fake claims. Chief among them, Oumuamua, was an alien spacecraft. No, it wasn't. And he's still got a book on Amazon selling that lie. And Gary Nolan is defending him as great warrior for disclosure. Then he tried to sell that there's some metals at the bottom of the ocean he recovered. And there's a whole controversy with that. He claimed they were from alien spacecraft. No, they weren't.
You know, perhaps a little bit more repeatedly even than me. But he has, I think, that same righteous indignation that drives him to basically show the people who are saying don't do it that you're really not playing by the rules of science here. And that's saying it lightly. I mean, I've spoken to him many times behind the scenes, and
I agree, Mike
he
Rotunda.
has far more colorful ways of talking about it.
I did some volunteer work for the.
So see, it's if you ask for evidence of out of this world fantastic claims, you're hammering the person. No, you're asking for evidence. If you're going to claim that there was an alien spaceship in our solar system, we need to see evidence of that. And Avi Loeb has failed to provide the evidence, though real astrophysicists and astronomers disproved his theory completely and totally. He's still selling that book and still will not admit that he got that one wrong.
Galileo project early on. It started off with helping them identify. They had about, I guess, I don't know, 300 or 400 people helping to train the AI to recognize
Could be Guardian Jackpot.
images, certain images, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it moved into me helping do some CAD work. We were designing a portable.
Oh, cool.
A portable.
Yeah, you evil
stand
skeptic.
for,
You want
some
evidence?
transmitters.
You must be an
But
evil
I don't think they
skeptic.
liked me making content about. One of the guys at Caltech accidentally, I guess, gave me permission to make videos, and I did, and I think they didn't. Anyway, I understand what you're saying about Avi. You know, the whole thing is interesting to me, and I think I mean, asking
probably
questions is
right.
what science is
Ella
all about, right?
libertarian
Right.
I mean,
operation.
I think people forget that's the basic thing that we're doing is asking questions. And
Nobody cares if you ask questions, but if you make fantastical claims like we have conclusive proof of alien technology, people want evidence of that, ArtisanTony.
you can't really do that sometimes in some communities without there being a presupposed answer to the question.
Yep.
Well, I mean, even if we're, and John Mack had made this point years ago with the abduction phenomena, you know, even if all we're dealing with is somebody's hallucination or some kind of psychosis, the fact that the psychosis
I can see that
hallucination is so broad would be interesting. I'm not saying it's psychosis, so please, I don't need 5,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm disparaging them. Not at all.
We're 20 minutes in. I heard maybe one question.
So, you know, even he said, look, it's interesting no matter what the answer is. You know, and so actually it reminds me, you know, early on in my science career, Leonore Herzenberg, the wife of Leonard Herzenberg, who'd invented the flow cytometer that I've made improvements to over the years, said, look, Gary, there's two kinds of questions you can ask. One is the Las Vegas question, where if the answer is yes, you win. If the answer is no, you lose. Now, you know, how much time do you want to spend, or think about it as money, how much money do you want to spend until you win the lottery ticket? Right. So there's sometimes good yes, no questions, though.
This is bizarre.
Where your chance of getting a yes answer is better if you try hard.
We're 22 minutes in, and I'm falling asleep here. This is the most boring interview of anybody I've ever heard.
Enough, or if you understand enough to say that this is a low risk question to get to yes. The other kind of question you can ask is one where no matter what the answer is, it's interesting. You should always try to ask a question where the answer is interesting, so no matter what, because you get an outcome, you learn something from that, which is kind of goes back to the beginning of the conversation.
I agree, Jamie. Money, follow the money.
About, you know, getting the wrong answer. Maybe sometimes you can learn.
Yeah, we're having a lot of weird stuff with the numbers tonight. I don't know what's going on.
That's kind of where the quote came from for the show. I was curious about. I've got several questions going back to the DNA thing before we get too far away from it.
I have no idea what's going on.
I skipped over some questions from the.
It must be the CIA.
They're related
it must be the CIA, right? They don't want me talking about this. So, boy, what a strange show so far. We've got a troll in the live chat claiming some radio show host is making outrageous claims. Nobody can verify he's actually live making those claims. He paid a whole bunch of money to alert me to these claims. Now YouTube is saying that we've got 3 live viewers, but StreamYard is telling me that we have 120. So I don't know what's happening. It might be the CIA. YouTube is having issues. All right, maybe it's not the CIA. Let's not jump straight to the CIA. Okay.
Go for it.
The DNA, I guess I actually invoked it because I was talking about my Peruvian DNA.
Mm-hmm.
They were asking about if you had, let's see, this is the question, Ben Thomas.
He's a genius, but uses a dial-up webcam from 1992.
Informed of any DNA analysis of the biological remains David Grush speaks about. Oh, that may be different from the Peruvian.
I mean, the short answer there is no. I mean, David would never, you know, violate his secrecy agreement there.
I think this is the one that gave me.
Oh yeah, and here's another thing. ArtisanTony is interviewing David Grush, who made all of these, or excuse me, is interviewing Gary Nolan, and David Grush works for, Dave Grush works for Gary Nolan, and Dave Grush made all these outrageous claims of the government being in possession of alien technology. Oh, he'll never verify his secrecy or oath agreement. So there's always some excuse, right? You're going to stand in front of Congress and say the government, yeah, they definitely have aliens and alien spaceships, And then people ask you for proof and you hide behind NDAs and you hide behind secrecy agreements and that's classified. Yes, and I agree with Paragon Reason. Good to see you here, Paragon Reason. Says Nolan's arrogance is on another level. It has to come from insecurity to be that bad. Yes, if not for truth seekers, nobody would be watching these two firebrands. Yeah, and we have
The impression.
pretty low attendance tonight, so that shows you definitely nobody cares about ArtisanTony, and very few people care about Gary Nolan. He's just made too many wackadoo claims with no proof.
And he was talking about the Peruvian.
Right. So,
Yeah.
look, people about, I don't know, a year or two ago related to this came to me and asked for my help. And my first inclination was no, if only because it might be human remains. And the last time I got involved,
Yeah,
with
thank
human
you,
remains turned into a
Wingnut.
giant debacle. I mean, not that I didn't prove that it was human, but some people didn't like that, including the person that brought it to me, and made a number of unfortunate statements publicly about me.
He's
His,
talking about Greer here.
So I just didn't want to get involved with that again. It wasn't that I'm not interested, believe me. When Masan brought it up again, more recently,
You checked out William Rudder?
Not to me, but publicly, I laid out somewhere on Twitter what I thought needed to be done. And the first thing I said was, look, there are plenty of very competent, great scientists in South America. You don't need to come to some North American guy to solve your problem. You guys can do it. No doubt about it. Second thing was I laid out what I thought needed to be done in terms of the kinds of experts that need to be brought in and what I thought the costs would be, and pointed out that a real study would need somewhere on the order of about $2 million a year for 2 to 3 years to bring in the right kind of people to do it. And
that's absolutely ridiculous. $2 million a year for 2 years to decide that Atacama humanoid was human. No, you need one DNA test. That's it. That's all you need, Gary Nolan. I'm no scientist, but one DNA test could prove that that thing was human and did not contain alien DNA.
But
talk about wanting to get funding. He wanted
it needs
$4 million
to be done behind closed doors, and not, the results never come out, but you cannot have cameras. So one of the proposals that was made to me was that they would follow me around the laboratory. I said, with a camera, I said, no, you
self-licking ice cream cone.
That's just not how it's done.
Yeah.
And so
he needed $2 million a year to figure that shit out.
It was ridiculous.
What do you do with all that $2 million?
It's funny you say that. Let me interrupt just for a second. That thought just had just invoked my PTSDs of where I had a home. I built custom houses for people, and I had a homeowner who wanted to follow me around all the time.
Yeah.
So it's very. I get that. I get it.
I can do it in maybe 5 years.
But I said, look, this is how much it would cost
janitor
to do it right. And here are the kinds of experts needed. And that was really when I think the more doll-like mummies were coming out. And I'd seen a couple of videos online of basically a bone specialist pointing out how it is basically a conglomeration of bones from multiple individuals, and everything was done wrong. And I don't know whether to believe him or not, except that was out there, and that caused me to pull back. Subsequently, some other mummies have been brought forward that look a little more interesting. And I think the last time I publicly commented was really saying, because they had brought in, forensic investigators from the U.S., somebody who's a specialist in bones, a forensic scientist who worked, I think, somewhere
I find interesting.
Colorado. And people that are of the caliber that I think are required, and they're doing it for free. And so for me, the open question is,
yes.
well, are their results going to be made public immediately, et cetera? I mean, my big push, at least is get it peer reviewed, write it up as a scientific paper. I would be happy to advise a little bit if they get results.
Why would you waste any more time or people's money or resources on Jaime Maussan's claims? The man has been involved in over 50 hoaxes. Gary Nolan, why would you waste scientists' time on a proven hoaxer? These things have been debunked 8 years ago, right? But now there's new ones. So now we have to waste more time. I don't think so.
That look interesting on how to write a scientific paper, but they can probably find somebody down there who could do that, because that's sort of it's the minimum of what makes this report credible. And it's not because it's better, it's just because that's the kind of the cultural expectation of how you validate a result, and resist the urge to do a press conference. Do a press conference after you get it accepted and it is published. That's great. That's when you do a press conference, not before. Now, I think people will say, well, Gary, if we hadn't done all these press conferences, nobody would be interested. Fine. You've got people interested. But once you get them seriously involved in the analysis of stuff, that's when you need to go into a bit of a stealth mode again and do the real science. And be patient.
He's going to tell you about real science.
What do you say to people who I actually have been mistaken for like a huge skeptic?
Circular Times. That's funny.
I'm certainly not a debunker. I have no.
Oh, he's been
there's no anything you can.
Yeah. You being called a skeptic is laughable to me, considering you do all but blow these UFO celebrities when you get to interview them.
So people say it says I'm a debunker, but I was brought up to ask questions about everything. You know, my mother was in medicine. She had a very scientific mindset, and she was like question everything, and that annoys people, you know. And I wish people could just say, okay, asking questions is fine, but what isn't there some sort of and this kind of goes back to the DNA thing. In my mind, it does.
Well,
isn't there something about human
thanks for being a member.
Our evolution that allowed us to have and maybe it's just some people have a more fine-tuned intuition than others. So
now he's going to talk about superpowers.
Your intuition informs you.
Yeah, superpowers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just look at it. I mean, humanity as a whole is a tool set of capabilities.
Jeannie McGurdy.
And a tribe needs to be big enough to have multiple different types in it. You have to have somebody who's essentially a scientist. The first scientists were probably shamans, testing things, right? And then realizing that some things had practical value for helping people get better. Right. They made an observation. Other people were better at hunting, etc. So evolution has the ability to create these different professions, let's call them, or at least inclinations towards being experts.
I agree with you, Richard.
So, you know, I think it's perfectly fine that that's how evolution works. I mean,
why is ArtisanTony asking immunologists questions about evolution? You know, great interview so far, ArtisanTony. You're asking an immunologist a bunch of stuff that he's neither qualified nor educated in, right?
It's necessary. I mean, not everybody can do everything. I mean, soon maybe we'll have AI that can do everything, and that will probably be a disaster. But you know, because I think it'll just make people lazy. But
yeah, hopefully AI will evolve like humans. Well, not like humans, but in the same manner. where it has improved over time.
He's on UFO OnlyFans.
So the reason I brought that up is because my first impression of seeing the mummies was that I thought they were, they weren't real, but I don't have any basis for that.
And I don't.
So I want people online to understand that there are people like me who don't mean harm by being skeptical. I don't mean any harm if I say, "Wow, that doesn't look real." It's not like I'm trying to hurt, anyone or it's just that's intuitive. It's just an intuitive thing.
There's just not enough data yet to make a conclusion.
Yeah.
The default position is I don't know.
Right.
Okay, if somebody has the time and interest and inclination and money to, do a little bit of investigation, do it.
I'm not against that. I mean, I would support some sort of crowdfunding to finance something like that. So
yeah, let's all take money from the general public to disprove the proven hoaxer Jaime Maussan's latest claims. This is idiocracy. This is idiocy. Why should the public have to pay to disprove a hoaxer's claims, Artisan Tony? That's stupid and childish.
Even though I ask questions and I have this intuition, I still want to see science performed,
Mm-hmm.
And that's there is a class of people I call the objective class that are like that who are taken out of context most of the time, in that we just want to see science performed. Right. We want to see that. I'd love to.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that next time, Elmer Boiler House.
Saying,
that'd be more.
I can tell from their questions.
All about getting money. Yeah, let's get millions of dollars to disprove a hoax.
I'm curious, you mentioned the Soul Foundation. You don't pronounce it Sol or Soul? I've heard it pronounced.
SOL, as in like solar.
Solar. That makes sense. Yeah.
Sol is the
self-replicating spacecraft. Sun.
Okay, that's where I get that confused. Yeah, I've heard it said both ways. But when was the idea behind that? Where did it come about for that? Or is it just that I don't know enough about it?
No. A friend introduced who knew both Peter and I. Introduced us and said, "Hey, this might be something interesting to do, and
this might be something interesting. We can get funding from stupid people over."
Introduced us to a number of individuals, including potential funders, to do this, and it seemed to make sense to me, because.
Science, read the Arrow report, Tony.
One of the things that I have learned in my day job, science.
I agree, Amy Collins,
100%. There's people who want to just continue to do the science and put the information on a library shelf, and that's what they get pleasure out of. I get pleasure out of enabling
Artisan
people
Tony's
to do
monetized, so
with
he's
new
getting
technologies. I still like the discovery, but I'm not really what you call a mechanism scientist trying to understand the mechanisms and how
this
things
is so
operate.
Stupid. What is circlejerk?
I want to develop the tools that allow people to study that. But I realized that the NIH was insufficient to enable some of this, that I needed to go commercial, that you need a vehicle where you can concentrate the efforts to move
yes,
an idea forward.
Thank you for translating, Patty.
And that's why
I'm going into UFO grift business. Lots of money to be made.
So similarly, what I saw when I went out looking in the literature is that there was no literature on this. I mean, there's papers here or papers there, and that the journals that did exist were considered fringe journals.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
there's weirdness with the numbers
in a bad way, unfortunately.
StreamYard is telling me that there's 170 people watching. I don't know what's going on. This is just a timing for me, right? I don't know. Yeah, it's just bad timing because we're in a new studio that I haven't done a show in like 8 months, and I don't need technical problems that are not of my own devising tonight.
So what I felt was, well, maybe I can, maybe I'll succeed. I don't know if we'll succeed in the long run or not. Is that we need to put foundational information in the literature so that policy
There's something really weird going on with the numbers. I don't know.
Or commercial.
Good evening, Tales of the Sonic Voyage. Thanks for being a member.
Go back and use this information to build upon and to convince others that this is worth investment into, or this is worth analysis of, because it is either a threat or it's interesting. So there wasn't an academic atmosphere around this, let's look at UFO Twitter.
Now he's going to trash UFO Twitter. Listen, this guy is complaining there isn't an academic environment around this, who stood on cameras with a disgraced journalist and claimed he had conclusive proof of alien technology. This asshole.
The worst of it. But I mean, I've luckily blocked so many. I think I've blocked thousands of people now. So if you come into my thread and you say anything negative about anybody, you will get blocked. So it's just
Captain Blocky
for it.
Yeah, he doesn't have time for real questions.
I create an echo chamber, obviously, but
he just admitted it. He creates his own echo chamber.
There's a lack of professionalism, and I was like, okay, well, what do I do about it? I can either complain,
that's true,
or I can do something about it. And it comes back to that notion.
Greer has an edge on these guys.
I hate seeing potential wasted. I see so much energy in the community. So how do I organize the energy?
Yes, you get a
and the
coin.
Soul Foundation, at least, is where I can do a kind of organization of it. And then others have popped up as well. I mean, we're certainly not the only ones. There's what are the other ones that are out there? There's UAPX.
There's plenty of UFO grifting organizations now,
and several others.
All of them have done nothing.
There's Ryan
they all
Graves,
need money.
NSA. We're creating one for whistleblowers now. As a
they all need
advice, operation. So it's professionalizing it and taking it away from.
How is a professional stand in front of cameras with disgraced journalists and claim that you have conclusive proof of alien technology?
People who are, all they want to do is endlessly argue on Twitter back and forth.
So the Soul Foundation hasn't, because I've had people come to me and say, "Oh, the Soul Foundation has contacts inside."
Yeah, he had a year to come up with these questions.
Giving information. This is the.
He had a year to come up with these questions.
Well, across,
I mean, first of all,
he's
how
a
can you
bag
not
licker.
have contacts with
Chris Johansson? He's a bag licker.
And
ArtisanTony
I guess
is
the
a bag
inference
licker.
is that this plan that's
He's a
been
ball
laid
sack
out.
licker for
Honestly,
sure.
I haven't watched all of the videos, so I'm not very educated on
the plan that's been laid out. It's news to
He's
me,
reading his diary.
and I'm just a puppet on somebody else's string. Fine.
I thought there was some plan. How to you have to read like 1,000 things on social media to get to the correct correct thing. And so there's this myth or whatever that there's this 5 or 10 year plan of disclosure.
All of them.
I mean, humans like to think that there's an order to the universe, and that they like to think that everything that occurs is due to some higher power. Great. I can't help it.
Frith is here.
As far as I can tell,
the Urban Way is here. Welcome.
The random effects of people pushing and pulling in one direction. So yes,
cool.
I feel that there definitely are people within government who are pulling towards. There are people there who are pushing against. There's people on the outside who are like me pushing towards. Is there? There's certainly a grand plan to try to stop the information from coming out. I mean, that's obvious to anybody, who looks. There's an asymmetry to the argument.
But the information being
whether or not these trick things are real. I mean, I have not seen.
Okay.
I have not seen a warehouse with.
I wasn't trying to trick you into an answer.
Don't worry.
I haven't studied it enough to be able to ask proper questions.
But
The Soul
So
Foundation.
it's interesting because, of course, we have David Grush is one of the co-founders.
Yes, you have a wackadoo who claimed that the government is in possession of alien technology, alien spacecraft, and bodies. And this interviewer is such a piss poor interviewer that's doing nothing but lick Gary Nolan's ball sack for 40 minutes so far. Maybe it's a good idea to ask this guy who's Gary Nolan's boss, ask this Gary Nolan, who is David Grush's boss, when is David Grush going to show us evidence? Because it's been 315 days since he made his claims, right? Now,
And
just let him blather on.
Interesting because there's two sides to the argument. There's that it exists, and the people are screaming, "Oh well, don't say anything more until you show me evidence." Okay, agreed. We're trying. And then there's people on like the Kirkpatrick Arrow review that came out, and just Nolan,
I don't think he
dissected
teaches
it live,
classes. He does research there.
on
He
the
doesn't teach
debrief,
classes
today. And I mean, very compelling takedown of it. But there's people. So if you look at that report, it makes a lot of conclusions, but doesn't give you any science.
I love this argument from Gary Nolan. He's upset because Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick came to the conclusion that there was no evidence of aliens. He even gave a breakdown of people making claims and how they busted those claims. But Gary Nolan is going to cry and complain that they didn't show any of their data. They showed how they debunked the claims of UFO wackadoos, many of which are Gary Nolan's buddies, right? But he's upset because there's no data. Where's the data of your claims? You stood in front of cameras and claimed that you guys had conclusive proof of alien technology confirmed by Michio Kaku. Where's Michio Kaku holding a press conference going, yeah, we definitely have alien technology here. Where's that data, right? So what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Or well, okay, how did you come to that conclusion? Show me the data. So here you have people saying, and then, of course, all the skeptics said, oh, look, Arrow said it doesn't exist. Ha. Well, no, you're claiming that you want us to show evidence, but when they come to a bunch of conclusions with no evidence, you're willing to accept them.
They showed you the evidence of their claims.
So there's a hypocrisy, obviously.
Oh, hypocrisy.
But the asymmetry is that the people like Arrow and the DOD get to veto people like David from releasing the information. So David says, I've got it. I can win this argument, but you have to let me talk about it. And the other side says, nope. So it's like a chessboard where one person makes the rules as they go along, and the other person plays by the rules.
Thank you, Talman. It's good to know.
I had a question related.
I don't know. He said he used to build
Grush.
houses. So,
oh no, it was about Chris Mellon. I guess. So I was born in the 60s, 62. And I remember I had my religious experience
stuck with the wackos.
10, maybe, I can't remember exactly when, what the age was. I grew up in a Baptist church. My mother took me Sunday morning, Sunday night.
Yeah. One of my old fans is here. Pix is here. Hey, Pix, I was right about Lou Elizondo and you were wrong, you dumb dickhead. You dumb dickhead! You were wrong! You were wrong. Now there's conclusive proof that I was right about Elizondo. By the way, I'm right about Grush, too. I've been right about virtually everything that we've talked about on my show, and my stances have proven to be correct. And meanwhile, you're still fanboying and blowing UFO celebrity scumbags, all of which are proven lying scumbags. So congratulations to you, Pix. You are dumber than dirt, bro. Dumber than dirt. Yes. What? Okay. I was right about Elizondo. He never ran a government UFO program. I said that from the start, right? Or virtually from the start. I was right about Anjali. I don't know. I'm right about an awful lot, Pix. So show me evidence that I'm wrong, or shut up and get out of my live chat, you dumb dickhead. You're not smart enough to watch this channel. Go back to your fairy tale huckstering dumbass channels, Pix. You gotta love it, right?
Wednesday night, dinner. You know, in the South, you have, you know, dinner on Messianic Church. And so, but my mother was also a very broad-minded person. Like I said before, she had a very scientific mindset, and she would go on these mission trips and be exposed to different religions across the world.
This is the ArtisanTony story time.
I mean, all of them. She would go to Asian countries and be exposed to Hinduism, Buddhism. Then she would go to the Middle East and Judaism and Islam. You know, all of this stuff, and she would come back, and that had an effect on me. So honestly, people don't quite understand.
You know what? Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm so hurt that I've been right about everything and you've been wrong about everything. Why would I be hurt about that? No, I'd take a victory lap and laugh about how stupid you were. Always critical of me being skeptical, but maybe being skeptical is the default position all of us should have, especially around a bunch of proven lying, grifting scumbags. And you can say whatever you want about me, but my content is now and will forever and always be free. I've never been caught selling a completely and totally fake story like all your scumbag heroes have, Pix. So good for that, right?
I understand this when I say it, but my religious experience, as soon as I was baptized,
he belongs in Goofon's chat, not mine.
All of a sudden, it was like this light. And it was a really weird, strange experience. When I came out of it, it wasn't that I wanted to go convert the world to Christianity. All of a sudden, it was a journey to understand.
Hey, Pix, how many government people, how many statements from the Pentagon do we need that Lou Elizondo never ran a Pentagon UFO program before you're going to believe them, right? Where's that book, Pix? I know you're a big fan, an ass licker, a Lou ass licker, right? What about the Arrow report, which said that he had no assigned responsibilities and it was an unfunded, basically, hobby, right? Yeah.
Understand creation, which actually led me to other things besides Christianity. It's very bizarre. It is the most bizarre. And I have a hard time explaining that. So my entire life, I've always thought there was life in the universe.
No, not always, but I believe evidence. But I don't know. They showed the evidence. You can see the evidence.
It seems like the times on Earth.
You want to live in a delusional fantasy world.
In the 60s is because it seems like every 10 or 15 years you'll have this, I'm calling it a wave of excitement surrounding UFO, UAP.
I can't understand ArtisanTony's setup. Like, he's sitting on a green screen and he just has a black background. Why don't you just get a black background? And it won't look this shitty. Like, I don't understand.
UFO. And it always ends in a lull. Obviously it's a wave, right?
Yeah, show me where I've defrauded anybody, Pix. Unlike your scumbag heroes, show me where I've defrauded anybody. You asshole, you bitter, angry, jealous little man who believes in alien fairy tales, right? You asshole. Right? You're going to come into my live chat and call me a fraud? No, I don't think so. You're out of here. Go someplace else, you asshole. You're not welcome here. All right, let's continue. Pix is an old, he used to be a big fan of mine, and then this is inevitably it happens. Some people are like, yeah, F. Stephen Greer, he's a liar, he's a scammer. And they're right there to be fans of mine when I'm going after people they don't like. But as soon as I go after somebody that they still believe isn't a scumbag, and I show them that they are a scumbag, then they turn on me. So this guy is a two-faced backstabber. Used to be a big cheerleader here.
Wave obviously started in 2017, right? You had the 2017 article. You had the gimbal, the go fast, the jellyfish, or whatever. You had all these events that are kind of leading up. And then you have
all of which were fake.
We're at the crest.
They weren't aliens.
Now we're at the crest of the wave. To me, are things like Chris Mellon saying, part of the 2017 article was not based on fact, and then you have the Arrow report come out. It's almost, and then you have Chris Mellon, like you mentioned, kind of pushing back against that report, but at the same time, he didn't he hasn't spoken favorably of the 2007. I guess I didn't mean for this to be a
I
diatribe,
agree, Glenn.
but it seems like we're on the downhill side again. It's like we have people now trying to convince us, like for the past 5 or 6 years, we have people trying to convince us that it was aliens. And now we have people, the same sort of people saying, no, it's not,
No,
right? You're right, Talmud. Never a dull moment.
I sort of detected a lot of the negativism out there on it, and frankly, I don't see it.
Thanks, William Runner. I appreciate that.
It's like people have gotten that they think it's like some sort of a TV show where, like, the series has to have a continual.
You're correct,
drumbeat. Or it just stopped, or somebody canceled the show. No,
that's a good analogy, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it is. You have to expect.
And just so everybody's aware, Christopher Mellon basically admitted that parts of the New York Times article was not factually accurate, and then they start the TTSA, which was a big money grab. They collected millions of dollars from stupid people claiming that they were going to build a UFO spaceship, and they never did. They lied to all the investors, claiming that on their board was a man named Lou Elizondo who ran a Pentagon UFO program. No, that was a lie. Why doesn't Gary Nolan talk about that and how all of his buddies are lying scumbags, right?
First of all, that there's going to be pushback. Do you think after 80 years, the people who have been trying to keep this behind the scenes for good reason or bad are suddenly going to just give up the ghost because Twitter says they should? UAP Twitter says they should. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, get a grip. That's the first thing. Second,
could be
everybody who I know
could be Matthew
helped get it to this stage are still working on things.
Get it to what stage? We still have no evidence.
They've realized that the more they do it like science in the public eye, the more you're basically giving the opposition intel on what you're up to so that they can prepare. So it's like, no, there's lots of stuff going on. And just because Arrow or
there's nothing going on, and I love this argument. Oh, there's been a cover up for 80 years. Prove it. There's always an excuse. If you live in a delusional fantasy world, you're going to need a lot of excuses when people come along with facts and evidence and bust you. This man, Gary Nolan, is employing David Grush, who for 315 days now, I think, has been saying the government has alien spacecraft and produced zero evidence of it. These people are their own worst enemy, right? Yeah, I agree with you, Talmud. You can disagree with me all you want, but don't come into my live chat and call me a fraud. I've never been caught selling a completely and totally fake story, unlike these people, right? Unlike Gary Nolan, who we can provably show has been involved in multiple fake stories for cash.
Sean Kirkpatrick goes out on a couple of TV shows articles with incredibly bad journalists.
They're bad journalists because they don't believe in aliens.
All over. I mean, give me a break. That's not over. It
is over. The whole push since 2017 has been revealed to be a bunch of lying scumbags, a bunch of wackadoos with no evidence, jerking each other off and telling each other alien stories with no evidence. It's a self-licking ice cream cone, Gary Nolan. And you could shut up all those critics by just showing us evidence of your claims. But you can't, and you won't. So you'll just attack those people who are simply asking for facts and evidence to back up fantastical claims.
If you're going to complain about it, fine. Don't bring other people down with your whining. I'm sorry. Go back.
It's taking people down if you ask for evidence
in your life, and wait until such time as the people who are actually doing the work on it give you your candy. But don't whine at me that I'm not giving you candy every day.
Yes.
And that's sorry. I'm just being a little annoyed by the people who want this drumbeat of or have false or unreal expectations of what the outcome should be every day. This is hard work. Get to work. If you're going to...
And it is hard work pushing evidence-free stories for years upon years. And Pixie, you can say whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. I've never been caught selling a fake story like all your scumbag heroes have. Your heroes are fucking pathetic scumbags, Pix. Your heroes are pathetic, lying, grifting, con artist scumbags. And no matter how much you cry about me, I have never been caught selling a fake story, right? We have a proven track record of accuracy here. Unlike your scumbag heroes, buddy.
You are not, in my opinion, in my lab, you are not allowed to complain incessantly unless
what do I sell people? I sell people asking for evidence, Pix. I sell people demanding evidence when wackadoos make claims. You're not going to keep this up. I will just keep putting you in timeout until you decide you want to be respectful. You don't get to come in my live chat and harass me during a live broadcast. You know, you can go over to the fairy tale channels with evidence-free fairy tales about aliens that you love so much, right? And if you know, this guy's an older man too. I feel sorry for him because he's invested so much of his time and life into UFO celebrity scumbags who keep lying to him, but he still licks their assholes. You gotta love it.
Or want to work.
It's like those women that like men that
Aren't we asking a bit much anyway from government to solve this?
It's an abusive relationship, right? Like some women, they just attract men that are abusive. Some of these people are so stupid that they attract abusive, narcissistic sociopaths who lie to them, and they love it. And they love it. It's bizarre.
They're one of their main goals is to hide, is to keep secrets, not disclose them.
Well, I mean,
right?
Avi has the right approach, and it's a variation of what I've been talking about. Is why wait for the government to give me permission?
I agree,
to
Patty.
Yeah, to do the work. You know, so
this
you know,
has been a crazy show so far. I don't know.
Get at this without waiting for the government to give us the answers, and so you know, I'm involved with efforts for that as well.
Yeah, and what drives me a little crazy there is that you have people like you and others creating organizations or companies or whatever.
That's crazy.
To perpetuate, you know, finding out or, you know, disclosing, and then you have people saying, "Oh, those people are just grift." You know what I mean? You can't win for losing.
As a grifter, I mean, I don't understand this term that people use. I just don't understand. I mean,
you're a grifter, Gary Nolan.
Is somebody who commits fraud. So, okay, no, I don't. If you're going to call me a grifter, you know, if the word didn't mean practically nothing these days, it's practically liable to call someone a grifter.
If you participated in selling completely and totally fake alien stories for money, Gary Nolan, then you're a grifter. There, I said it.
I think most people use.
It's a truthful statement. He has been caught selling completely and totally fake stories about aliens.
It as just nowadays, you know, people are so envious of people who are successful or.
Oh yeah, he's very successful.
To make a living at what they do.
ArtisanTony at selling people lies.
Who are just trying to make.
I'm the worst grifter in the universe. I've literally spent of my lab budget now. I have like royalties from my patents that have come in. I have a big fund sitting there. I have my endowed fund.
The whole foundation says it all. Yes.
A good sum, a few $100,000 a year. And I don't use it all every year. I mostly use it to, you know, supplement postdoc salaries and things. I've spent probably now about $350,000 of my lab money. I've spent about $50,000 or more of my own money. Actually, I haven't even kept checks, probably more. So I'm the worst grifter in the universe. I'm the anti-grifter.
How did he spend $350,000 of his lab money? I have some questions for Stanford University. Like, are they aware that he spent $350,000 studying alien bullshit? Bradbury says the soul grift is raking it in. Yeah. Self-licking ice cream cone calls it the sold out foundation. They sold out. Yes.
The fact is this technology, you know.
Well, he's admitting that he spent $400,000
a lot of money
on alien research.
I mean, look at cytometry. I don't know a lot about it, but from what I gather, you're taking lasers and shooting it at liquid, right? just the equipment. I don't know what that costs, but it has to be some some substantial amount.
I mean,
I agree, Amy.
My
Look at he spent
former
$350
mentor
on it.
invented that machine. We were involved in sort of the next generation machine, which actually doesn't use lasers but uses
Who knows,
mass
Tar?
spectrometry, and enabled us to do more measurements per cell.
I agree. It's a
than
faith-based
traditional flow
community.
cytometry
Just
could.
believe.
Yeah, I mean, those machines, when I was a grad student, those machines cost $500,000. The best of those machines today, which can now do 30 or 40 parameters, cost $500,000.
Yeah, you could buy houses for 100 homeless.
It's expensive work.
20 homeless people.
Does the new
whatever.
machine shoot particles at that, or what is it, like a collider, or is it like a what's the process now of?
I think
So you
Artis Tony called
stain
a mass
cells with antibodies.
spectrometer.
Antibodies will bind to specific target proteins that tell you the kind of cell that it is and what the cell is thinking, in a way, at that point in time. Those antibodies have attached to them metals and unique metals or isotopes of metals, which is kind of how I got into the whole isotopes game. Then each cell is shot into a 75.
Yeah, and one might ask themselves, why is Gary Nolan doing materials analysis? He's neither a materials scientist nor an engineer, right? Why is that? I don't understand. It's like going to a foot doctor to get brain surgery. You go to the proper scientist to get the proper work done. You don't go to an immunologist to do materials science work.
500-degree Kelvin flame, one cell at a time, about 1,000 cells a second.
No, he's gone again.
And that cell obviously incinerates and becomes a vapor cloud. So 700 degrees Kelvin is the surface of the sun temperature.
Yes, he's working out of his field,
stream
right?
Of cells.
Yeah, show me where I was wrong.
Atoms.
He never does. He just ad
passes
hominem attacks.
into what's called a mass spectrometer.
Yeah,
which
he's not
detects the
smart enough to be in our
weights.
chat. He belongs in a dummy
and
chat.
The number of, let's say, lanthanum ions we detect tells me how much CD8 is on of a protein is on. So the protein, the antibody, the metals. I'm measuring the metals, which are a surrogate of measuring the protein.
Now we've got immunologists telling us about material science.
We collate the data, we process it, and then we create pretty graphs.
Exactly.
And come to conclusions. So that's how the instrument generally works.
Oh,
but it requires a lot of math and algorithm afterwards. And so we've moved on to a lot of AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and we're even using ChatGPT.
Do you all use, so you do use ChatGPT? I didn't know if you all had like a specially trained language model.
Yes, we do, actually. We have and I've actually spoke about at just down in San Diego the other day, American Association of Cancer Research, and at what's called a Keystone meeting up in Vancouver 2 weeks ago. We developed these large language models for not just
I agree, disclosure bonus.
So basically you take your data. The big problem is you get all this data, you go, oh my God, what am I going to do with all this data? Then somebody has to go through meticulously and go look in the literature. Well, the literature actually has been encompassed within some of these large language models. And so we've developed a way to look at the data, have the large language.
We're 55 minutes into this so far, and ArtisanTony has yet to ask him about any of his previous fake stories. So just as I said at the beginning of the broadcast, ArtisanTony can't ask him why he's been caught selling fake stories. He can't ask him that, or he doesn't get the interview. So, like I said, a lie requires your participation. ArtisanTony is right now participating in a lie, pretending that Gary Nolan is a credible scientist that can do material science work. And certainly some scientists can do work outside of their general field of expertise, but it's not advisable. So ArtisanTony is just participating in the lie that Gary Nolan is not a wackadoo, right? The truth does not require your participation, ArtisanTony, but a lie does.
Language model interrogate all of human knowledge and come up with reasonable explanations of why the data is as it is.
I agree.
And then
Amy
it also
Collins,
gives the user the experiments that you should do to prove these different ideas. Because experimental protocols are all in the literature as
Good
well.
point,
So you
Richard
just have to train
Warner. Yeah.
the large language model to do it. So it's quite remarkable.
One of the things I found very exciting about
I agree.
OpenAI's
Chris
approach
Johansson.
is
Yeah.
that
Nolan only accepts AskKiss interviews.
I have an API key for OpenAI, and I can upload files related to, like in my industry.
Yeah.
I've
same
created a
old
small
liars.
language model for the construction industry for my
That's
processes.
Cool. Yeah.
But I can, if I'm on the job, I can say, I can invoke that information, and it can just bring up a checklist.
Yeah.
Right. I don't have to carry checklists around for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of envision that with with science, is that it's not like
I'm all for AI ArtisanTony. I'm all for him using some AI because he's too dumb on his own. He needs the help of an AI to get through life. This guy is dumb as shit.
like you have to retrain. I guess once you have a good model, you can just sort of,
this guy's on par with David Grush. Yeah, David Grush works for Gary.
Absolutely. I don't know. I just find the whole thing fascinating. I could talk an hour just on
I
it.
see a question that just popped up from this guy, Kurt. That sounds the approach would work well with the Human Cell Atlas project, which
good
I'm
point.
a part of that. And
the AI knows he's a
Codex
grifter.
And the MIBI has contributed a good deal of the information that's in the Human Cell Atlas now. Absolutely. In fact, that was the frustration that drove our creation of what I just talked about, because all these weird cell, especially in the immune system interactions, let's say in cancer, nobody has really a clue. Everybody knows what an individual cell might do, but what 3 or 4 or 5 cells are all doing together in some orgy of interactions, they're very abstract. They're temporary. They interact. They go off and do other things, and there's this constant, handshaking going on. So we needed a way to coalesce all of human knowledge in some way that is now usable by what I often say mere mortals.
So now an immunologist is waxing poetically about AI.
Because I can't be a domain expert in every angle of immunology. There's hundreds of different sub expertises.
Yes, yes, Pix.
And so
he's been very successful at selling evidence-free fake alien stories, you asshole. He's been very successful at that. It doesn't matter if he's successful in other areas of his life. He's still a wackadoo, right? And no, I'm not jealous of anybody who's selling fake alien stories and lives in a delusional fantasy world. We got 13
AI
more
is
minutes
the only solution
or something. We're
So
going to
these
make it
cells,
through.
like cancer cells, can
We're going to
have.
make it through this circle
Can they
jerk.
all have their different attributes that affect the group?
They're a mess. People often talk of evolution as a movement towards a goal, and that the cancer evolves towards something. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Normal cells. So the first time 2 cells on ancient Earth came together and said, "I will not divide at your expense."
Now, this is something he's actually qualified to talk about because he's done actual cancer research
of a multicellular organism, right? And so it eventually became more and more complex, and more contracts, basically rules, were built that says, "I will not divide at your expense." So what cancer is a breaking of the contract. It's going backwards down through the rules and saying, no,
I agree,
no, I'm not going to do this. I don't listen to you here. I'm not going to follow that rule, etc. And there's, as it turns out, a bazillion different ways that you can break the rules.
Well, those weirdos.
And that's why cancer is such a tough problem, because it is, at the same time as it's breaking rules, it's learning how to teach normal cells in the immune system how they shouldn't be following the rules, right? So there's this, the cancers are teaching the immune system to help them, often in a way. or evade them, or I'm not here, don't look at me.
I guess it would take more than lifetimes that we have to like take a group of cancer cells and isolate each cell and figure out what's up with each cell, I guess.
I can't believe he waited a year for this interview.
I'm
imagining that,
You're definitely on the right track. I mean, you have the instincts of a scientist for sure.
I agree.
The issue is, at the very beginning, what we need to do is find and develop and understand what are the rules. So a good friend of mine who won the Nobel back in 2018, James Allison, he and his wife, they're co-directors of the MD Anderson Cancer Center, where I'm actually doing a part-time sabbatical. He looked for a broad rule and they're called the checkpoint inhibitors, that showed that cancer turns off the checkpoint inhibitors.
Sounds like
sounds
clickbait to me. Disclosure donor.
One observation was able to work for a number of cancers. Doesn't work for all cancers, right? And doesn't even
he
work,
has patents.
I mean, for melanoma, which is the disease that I get, basically yearly, and so I have to basically get pieces cut off me every, every 3 times a year. They're chunking me apart, which is fine.
Yeah, who knows? I don't know.
It doesn't work for all melanomas. So why? So you got to go into the ones that it doesn't work with. And so you look at the failure and you look at the success, and you sit and you try to find out what the rule is.
Now they're talking about skin cancer.
Better teach the immune system or come up with new approaches. So it's incremental. It's a lot better than it was years ago. And even 10 years ago, which is why, Jim won the Nobel for it.
It's funny. It made me think of this little project my son had in middle school. It was I think it was biology class, and he had to create a model of something, and we chose was it bacteriophage? It was the little engine,
cool.
And I thought at that time, I kept thinking, why can't we program this thing to go in and fight cancer?
Well, I mean, one of my first contributions was the development of a rapid retroviral production system, the so-called 293T.
Yeah, good point, William Renner.
Which is a variation of what we showed was possible, is now used for all human gene therapy. Using retroviruses, lentiviruses. Basically the lentiviruses are produced in the 293 T cell project, because when I was in David Baltimore's lab, who won the Nobel Prize years ago for retroviral research, one of the other postdocs couldn't do something. And I was sitting there thinking, well, I have this cell line. If we did it in that cell line this way, I could fix his problem. And we did. And actually, it was one of the biggest money makers of all time for me.
Wow.
Coming up with that idea, just seeing somebody's problem and then realizing that you have a potential solution.
I know he's putting all of us to sleep.
Him,
this is the most boring interview I ever did commentary over. Hands down, the most boring interview.
And working with him to make that idea happen. So, and the idea is to use retroviruses to drag genes in.
Good point. The hydrogen line.
I mean, I'm thinking, how do I change all my cells so that I don't have the MIT-F E218K mutation? How do I change them all so I don't get melanoma twice a year?
I guess that's the discovery we're looking for, right?
Yeah.
How close do you think we are to something like that? I guess there's no way to tell, right?
There's no way to tell. I mean, it's beyond the 5-year horizon. But, I think
clown filter, definitely need a clown filter.
Unexpected solution, which is why you do basic research. I mean, CRISPR is an example of incredible basic research.
5 more minutes.
Somebody found a bunch of repeat sequences in a bacterial chromosome And strangely, between the repeat sequences, there were sequences of viruses. And they're like, well, why are these things all lined up in one place? And then they found that there were proteins that bound there. And then they found that those proteins plus those sequences
That's
could prevent
the point of a
the
circle
entry
jerk, Chris
of
Johansson.
of viruses that matched that sequence. And CRISPR was born. And because they realized what was happening was that the proteins with that template memory, sort of an immune system memory, were capable of preventing the virus from entering the cell. I mean, remarkable.
I can see him having
And
a
of
train
course,
set in his basement.
you know, a woman at Berkeley won the
We
Nobel
have
Prize
one,
for
but I have children, so it's okay. We only
right.
bring
So
it out at
CRISPR,
Christmas.
I may be thinking of something different. There's sort of an open source method for
seek medical professionals
of binding to certain sequences. And when you bind to certain sequences in that DNA or RNA, you can alter.
Yeah, we definitely had some twists and turns
that's
tonight.
there, depending on what other things you drag.
I have a CRISPR in my fridge,
and so people have exploited it in 50 different ways. The core observation, but it was basic research that drove people who are a little bit more practically minded to realize, oh, I can use this for this, which is why you do basic research.
Don't they have
that would be a good thing? I would
a little
fully
tool you
support
can
him for that.
I remember getting a box in the mail one time I ordered. It was an experiment, and then you run it, and then you send the results back. Is that the same? I may be thinking about something else, but
Reinforces
I remember that was another
the grip.
project my son and I did where we ran the experiment, and then we took the results and sent it back to the organization, and they used it. In other words, they had 1,000 people, millions of people doing these experiments, and they would bring the results back.
Mm-hmm.
That's not CRISPR, is it? That's
no, I don't think so.
Okay. It wasn't even using CRISPR, I guess.
By the way, I have another meeting.
Oh, okay. Well,
in other words, you're boring the shit out of me, ArtisanTony. I gotta go.
When is this meeting? I'm supposed to be on this other meeting. We were only scheduled for the hour.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah, I gotta go.
All right. Well, I really appreciate your time, Gary, and I hope maybe sometime you can come back. I know you're not going to be doing many of these, but maybe we can have you back sometime.
Would love to. And sorry I didn't get to the questions, but if you want to email me the questions, I can try to answer them.
Okay. I might do that if you don't mind. I had questions I had to ask other people to send. And but anyway, I appreciate you, and congratulations on your work. And I appreciate. There are a lot.
Congratulations on selling fake stories successfully. And congratulations on getting through this interview without me asking you about those fake stories that you've sold previously.
A lot of us out there who appreciate what you're doing.
I'm trying. I'm here. Okay, see you later.
Thank you.
See
you. Bye.
Oh. 1 second. That's another curious thing. ArtisanTony's channel is so his views are so shitty that they don't normally I can download somebody's YouTube video and then I can mirror it, but in this case I couldn't because it's not available to download yet, which is odd coming from a channel that has 80,000 subscribers. I've never seen that before. So there's something wacky going on with this guy's channel. All right, we'll sit through a wrap up.
Man, I had like 20 other questions, and I had asked for people to send in questions like, let's say Alexei Nobitzky, who's a friend of mine. And
now he has an L. Oh, I was going to ask the hard questions. We didn't get to them. No, you circle jerked them.
Several other people, Dan Warren and Ashton Forbes. There were several people that had questions. So I apologize. We spent time speaking about other interesting things, and hopefully we can get Gary back sometime.
That's why I don't ask
for all those people who support the show. It's our 100th show. We made it, and it's a personal victory for me to have Gary on the show. I know people will
something's
say
weird with
that
that.
that's fanboying out, but if I can do that, anybody can. And
Yeah, anybody can
just to make
circle
it this
jerk the
far and
UFO
have
celebrity
people,
scumbag.
I have to
Yes.
recognize people like Alexei, who's co-hosted before.
Oh yeah,
Patrick
let's take some
Compton,
questions from that clown.
There's several people who've helped get it this far, and I appreciate them. Appreciate Ashton. He's supported the channel, and we've interviewed him. And appreciate a lot of all of you.
He also interviewed Ashton Forbes, who grew his entire following on completely and totally fake videos. Congratulations, ArtisanTony, for interviewing a guy who pushed completely and totally provably fake conspiracy theories and videos for several years now. That says a lot about you as a show host, that you're proud of that interview. That you interviewed a guy pushing fake UFO videos and claiming that a 747 was teleported out of the sky by aliens.
Not there, who support the show, and hope through having Gary, we can get better, more and better guests. And
not if they see this interview,
now, but I just want to say thanks a lot. And the past 10 to 12 years has been awesome. And thank you.
He's been at this for 12 years and he can't crack 4,000 views, even if he gets the big celebrity scumbag interview.
It would be great.
All right, that's enough of that. He can't even figure out how to end his show. Well, there you have it, friends. This is the textbook definition of a UFO circle jerk. These guys, I can't stress enough. Like this is a UFO celebrity circle jerk. This is what you do. You ask them completely unrelated questions to the grifts that they've run previously. You just, circle jerk in full motion. Textbook. Yes, this is the textbook definition of a UFO circle jerk. And I just want to mention, we're here in the new studio, and I'm noticing there's a bit of a lag, it seems, in the video. So if there's some technical issues, I apologize. I'm going to work on things over the night here and try to get things better dialed in for tomorrow. The good news is the major reason we have to move to a new streaming location here in my home is because the attic office room that I'm usually in gets so incredibly hot. If it's 70 outside, it's like 85 in there, that I can't stream in there without the air conditioner blaring. And of course, people will complain about the noise, these audio files. So we have to move in here. The good news is it's chilly in here. Like I need a sweater in here, which is good. So we will be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you'll be here with us. Apologize for the technical problems and these twists and turns. And apparently we had several trolls in the chat, one of them making claims that some radio show host was saying crazy, wacky stuff, which I've been unable to verify. I've been in the background here trying to verify those claims. I think it was just a troll. But congratulations to the troll who sent us something like $20. $20 to troll the channel. If people really want to troll my channel, send me $20. Praise cash, bitches. So I'll take a few comments and questions from the live chat. Talmud is here. Thanks for being a member. Says, interesting night. I enjoyed this one. Thanks for being here. Guardian Jackpot says, which reminds me, I need to go screen my subs. Yeah, could be a good idea. Amy Collins, would a basement studio for summer, attic studio for winter work? That's basically what I've done. I'm here in my in a portion of the basement, and we've kind of converted things here. We'll switch cameras here so you can see a little better. This is actually a much bigger space than I usually do the stream in. And the good news is, you see we have some chairs. I got to figure out the multi-mic setup, but then we'll be able to do live in-person interviews. Now, when I actually do a live in-person interview, we're probably going to rearrange things, move the desk out of the way or something, and it'll just be me and a guest in these chairs and a multi-microphone setup. One of the other cool things is that we have a polygraph machine here. So sometimes we're going to have guests that are making extraordinary claims. We're going to be able to hook them up to the polygraph, talk about seeking the truth, I think that's a great thing. Still dialing things in here, and there's always this awkwardness every year when I have to make this switch or transition. It's difficult for me. Like, I'm just not comfortable for the first 3 or 4 shows. I'm sure by next week I'll be great. And look at this we have a different close-up camera. I need a haircut desperately, as you can see. Ever since the pandemic, no, actually, ever since I moved, I have a big problem with haircuts. I used to live in Philadelphia, and in every neighborhood in Philadelphia, there's barbershops on the corner. You just go to the barbershop, $10, and you get a haircut. Here, there is very few barbershops, and I found a barbershop. I went inside, and it was all Mexican ladies in the barbershop, and I mean a barbershop. They had the barber pole out front. It said barbershop, and as I recall, I waited like 25 minutes for a haircut, and then I just gave up. I had other things I had to do that day. I haven't found a good barbershop. I got my haircut at some kind of, like a woman's place. There's no barbershops. Apparently there is a few. I just got to try harder. Here in the suburbs, barbershops are not as common as where I come from in the city. Michael McKinnon is here. Thanks, Michael McKinnon. Hank McGurk says, grow it out. Yeah, my wife doesn't like that. This looks wolfy. She'll say, you're looking wolfy, look at this. It's growing in all uneven. No, I definitely need a haircut. I'm going to work on that. Maybe we'll see if we can't get that taken care of. New set, new haircut. It's warmer now. It's probably time. It's a cool surfer dude, says William Runner. I'm jealous. I lost my hair a couple of years ago. Well, these widowed peaks of mine aren't getting any smaller, but I've been holding on. I will say, William Runner, that most of my male friends that I grew up with are already bald, and they've all gone bald years ago. So I've been very blessed in the hair department. Now, if I could just lose about 15 or 20 pounds, that's that's next on my list besides the haircut. Get hair put off in here, but use a Scientology e-meter. Check those thetans. Yeah. Yeah, check for organs and stuff. Yeah. All right, so we've done our due diligence. Most of the point of tonight is that I wanted to go over this interview because, as I correctly predicted, this ArtisanTony does a terrible job. He doesn't research the past fantastic claims people make. He doesn't ask people about the past fantastic evidence-free claims they made. So this is the textbook definition of a circle jerk. Next time somebody asks me, what do you mean UFO circle jerk? I'm going to just send them this video. He all but says, oh, I fanboyed through this whole interview. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't take interviews if you're not going to ask real questions, if you're just going to blow the guy. But it is what it is. But it's important to point out that this is why these people that live in a UFO delusion land, this is why this is able to continue. Gary Nolan will certainly be back with new false claims because nobody calls him on the previous false claims. Same for Lou Elizondo, same for Ross Coulthart. How many times has Ross Coulthart given an interview, and how many times has somebody asked him about all the fake stories that he sold, including this one with Gary Nolan? Never. It's like I don't know. It's like clown world here. Like you got caught selling a completely and totally fake story, and nobody's even got the balls to ask you about it. But it is what it is. This is where we find ourselves, and this is why the UFO delusional fairy tale world persists, because people don't have the balls or the courage or the intestinal fortitude to actually ask real questions. And that makes this a sad world in which, in order to participate in this delusional fairy tale world, you have to actively participate in a lie. The truth doesn't require your participation, but lies do. And as for Gary Nolan, I'm sure he'll be back with new fantastical claims and, donate to his Soul Foundation, SOL, Same Old Liars, right? Or the Sold Out Foundation, as somebody called it earlier. Yes. Yeah. Hank McGurk. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. You got to keep everything clean and good for your significant other. So I highly recommend a little manscaping, right? You gotta, my wife calls it trimming the Sasquatch, you know, you gotta take care of that shit. Whatever, actually, it depends. I mean, I guess some women like that. Whatever your woman likes, just do that. You'll save yourself a lot of heartache and trouble, right? Just whatever she wants, just do it, right? Yes, Archaic Revival says it's so weird that people actually accept this garbage as the UFO narrative. Yeah. Dizzy Blonde says, how do we get to manscaping? And where's our male dancer? Find me one. I can't find one, Dizzy Blonde. Yeah, but it is what it is. Anyway, we've done our due diligence for tonight. I wanted to display to you, and also, I hate to say it, but I wanted to take a little bit of a victory lap. I told this ArtisanTony when he announced this interview, like, you better ask real questions about his previous false claims. Maybe about the Stanford Code of Ethics, and is he violating it? We heard in the interview, he claims that he spent $350,000 of research funds on alien stuff. Can we get a spreadsheet of that shit? I don't understand how you spend $350, but it is what it is. And of course, Gary Nolan is whoring out Stanford University labs equipment and even personnel to alien scammers who sell fake alien stories. This is clown world, friends. That's all I can say. So we've done our due diligence for tonight. I got a special music video to play for you for this evening, but we'll play ourselves out with our usual bumper here. So get those good night well wishes ready. So we've done our due diligence. This is the textbook definition of a circle jerk. ArtisanTony talked about anything other than Gary Nolan's previously false claims, provably false claims, or his association with other UFO grifting scumbags who also get caught selling fake stories. But hey, as long as he made some money, right? It doesn't matter. I guess integrity doesn't matter. You just put your integrity and your honor in the trash, and you do a terrible job fanboying for an hour straight a guy who's provably sold fake stories and who started a foundation who is right now selling fake stories. You know this, I guess was it Kevin Newth, I think? Maybe that's the guy's name. He's making all these claims and he won't show the radar data. So where is he getting these conclusions from? More evidence-free stories from the Soul Foundation. Just trust me, bro. Somebody told me that this craft did, huge, ridiculous amounts of speed or whatever. You don't need evidence for that. It's incredible. But we've done our due diligence. I will be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you'll be here with us. So that's all I got for you. Until next time, friends, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.
You wanna call